Hello everyone and welcome to the SUTV show. Carl, Asaba and I are going to look ahead to this weekend's game at West Ham. We will look back at the Newcastle game, we'll not linger on that too long, and we'll catch up with the very latest from Derek Geary and see what's been happening in the academy. How are you? Good to see you again, Carl.
Good, it's nice to see you.
Come on then, let's get it out of the way. It's been a long old week, forgettable afternoon last weekend. However, it's about how they bounce back now, isn't it, as a group? What are you hoping to see at West Ham this weekend?
What we've seen in the previous games before Newcastle, I don't think anyone could have a problem with the commitment and the application before Newcastle. I think it's a real out of character performance. We've not seen it in the 2 years since the manager and his coaching staff have taken over. And, you know, it has to be looked at as just 3 points lost, because if you go too far it can just derail everything, because I think so far everything's been really positive and we've been unfortunate in most of the games.
As a player, can you use last week as what's the word I'm looking for, as a positive, in so much as channeling that frustration and disappointment and turning it into a positive performance this week?
Yeah, you have, whatever comes your way, you have to look at it in a positive way, and you've got to take something. For me, it's just, that's unacceptable. That doesn't happen again. And the players will have been hurting. No one leaves a pitch and loses a match, and as a player with your professional pride, you're not just forgetting about, oh, it's gone, and carry on about your life. They will have been dreading going out to work, into their cars and being seen, because they'll be feeling embarrassed and that they let themselves in the area down. So it will have been a really tough week for them, but they've got to get back and understand, well, so far this season they've competed and competed well, and Sunday was, it was just I've not seen that before, and we won't see that again, I'm sure.
Do you expect to see changes this weekend?
I don't know, it's difficult to say, because the manager fielded the team he felt would do the best, as he has every game so far, and it just went completely wrong. And there's two ways of looking at it. You've put the same team out to perform and show that was a one-off, or you do think, well, I am going to ring the changes. This is where the manager's really, it's a really tough job which way he's going to go, but he'll be using it to spur the team on. It's not going to be making people feel worse and linger on it. That's not what you want to perform. None of those players will have walked away thinking, well, I want to do that again. That's my standard. They don't. They want to prove they're in the top flight and they're playing well, and they're good players. So it will be used as a catalyst to move forward. It will have been a really tough week here, but what is everybody here wants to win, and they want to do it a certain way, and it's through hard work and application, and that's what I'm expecting to see.
It's easy to point fingers, but as a collective, you've just got to take it on the chin, haven't you? As a group, you've got to take it.
They've got to own that, and as we say, use it because what we've seen so far, the fallout, and it's been knee-jerk and not really been held in context. In context, the manager's been here 2 years, and that's just a one-off performance. Other than that, everyone's been proud of what's gone on in the pitch and the way that the team embody the Sheffield United ethic and the work ethic and the desire. And so it's a one-off, and it will be used as that never happens again. It's not that is it. That's never seen, and just got to try and use it that way.
He does have another option available this weekend, of course, Ollie McBurnie, who sat out last weekend. What kind of a difference do you think Ollie McBurnie can make to this team? Because he is very different to the other forward options that they currently have.
He's a key player for the team and the squad, with his mentality and his play and everything. And I've seen lots written about, we've got this blame culture at Sheffield United, pointing fingers at officials. And the match where West Ham won, where you've got Tevez and you've got Mascherano playing, things seem to transpire against us. And personally, the manager didn't say it afterwards on Sunday, but the match away at Tottenham, McBurnie getting sent off completely transforms our team. McBurnie has been outstanding this season. He really caused problems for Man City, so we were hampered. He's going to be an incredible addition if he comes back, if the manager chooses to use him, which we'd expect he will if he's fit. And he will inspire the other players, because you do change your style of play. gone on about McBurney for 2 years, how important I think he is, to just retaining the ball and his defensive headers. Everything about him is key, and I hope the players will all work around him.
What about West Ham as a test?
It's a wonderful test because you know on their worst day they are applying. They've got the grit. They're playing in a tough area of London where the fans demand a certain work ethic. So what I was a little bit critical about on Sunday, we didn't have our work ethic. Good players didn't have the work ethic. You know, if you don't turn up with your work ethic against West Ham, you're going home losing. So the boys know that when they walk in there, their touch can be off, their interplay can be off, but they must work and they must compete or you lose. So I think it's a good match, that their mentality, they already know what they're going into.
Bramall Lane's a wonderful place to play. Can it be seen as a good thing, being away from home this weekend, given what happened last weekend?
Everything you can spin one way or the other, and it's got to be
doing
used.
my best.
No, but it's got to be spun positively. Of course, it gets the players away from where they've just had that horrible experience and into a hostile experience in a different way, where they're going to be fighting against the West Ham fans trying to pot them off, and they can stand up against it. You've got to relish these. I said at the start of the season, there's 38 cup finals, and it's got to be seen that way. They've got to apply themselves every single match like it's a cup final.
Thank you for now, Carl. A little later on, we'll hear from the Sheffield United manager, Paul Heckingbottom. But now we're going to see how the academy is getting on. So many exciting youngsters here at Sheffield United, several of which currently out on loan. Let's hear from the academy manager now, Derek Geary. Derek, good to see you. How's life?
Thank you. Really busy at the minute. Obviously, as you know, the season's up and running and lots to do on a day-to-day basis, but all good, Paul. Yeah, cheers.
Kids are doing well, as they usually do here. We've seen some youngsters getting first-team experience at the start of the Premier League season as well. What are your thoughts on some of the lads that did get a taste of it early doors?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think obviously there's a few lads gone out on loan now. Obviously a couple have played in the first team this season and been around the first team, and I think the experience they're getting in Premier League environment, which is obviously the highest standard of football and world football, so the experience that they're getting now is tenfold, and I think it's important that the manager is very good and very supportive of us as well within the academy, as well as Jack. Obviously they've been in the academy and they've had all the young lads around it. They know the young lads, they were part of their development, and he's willing to give them a chance, but obviously you have to be good enough as well. So it's important that these kids do recognise there is a pathway, but they also have to step up to the plate when they go in as well. So, and they've done well. Some can do better, but they've done well.
Trust is a big thing, isn't it, between staff here, the manager, you, having faith in the youngsters as well. But that's something that Paul Heckingbottom seems to have a lot of. He has a lot of faith in the young players here. He knows that if he needs to turn to them, they'll be ready.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me is he's played a massive part, as well as Jack, in these young players' development. So he knows the ins and outs of these players. But like you said, my job within the academy is giving these young kids the belief in their talent, that they can go up to the next level, but also ultimately then, which we keep on reinforcing, once he goes up to the manager, and the manager's got to see that if he's going to put them on a pitch in front of Bramall Lane, in front of 20,000-30,000 people, he's got to be able that they will do the job that he feels they can trust them in.
So it's really key that you're improving the attributes to fit into the style of play that the first team. So you're not playing under 21 matches trying to win them. You're trying to improve the player to fit into the first team.
100%, Sabs. The 21s will sort of mirror the first team in regards to shape that they play. Mickey Collins, the 21 manager, will have a lot of conversations with the manager in regards to the style of play. And because we're lucky that the manager knows a lot of the players, he will sort of ask who he's doing, where he should play and where he should play. So he has a lot of input, obviously, as well as Jack. But then obviously further down, within the ages, within the academy, I think the most important thing as well, from my point of view as academy manager, is making sure that these kids, no matter where they come from and coming into the building, they feel the Sheffield United way. And it's important that we push Sheffield United into these kids, because ultimately at this stage in the whole football club is we're aligned right through the mantra: outrun, outfight, outplay. It's obviously evident with the manager right through down to the under-9, so it's important that we put Sheffield United into these kids with what the manager wants, and obviously then the manager will then dictate to who he trusts and what shape and team he plays.
But that's straight as a manager, that results isn't the be-all end-all for you. You know, it's not about winning every match you play. It's about making sure these boys actually are brave enough on the ball and doing certain things. So that must be a nice bit for you, being a manager, where it's not just about the result, it's how you go about playing the game.
100%. Like, ultimately, if any of these kids are going to go on to play in our first team, you've got to be brave enough to handle the football in front of 20,000 people. And I think you've got to be even braver when you've just lost the ball 4 times and you're looking to get it again. And it's important that we put these players into situations like this within games. And like I said to you off air, it might at times cost us games of football, but by all means, for Sheffield United, we want to win every game of football, but you can want to win every game of football, but it's not important, but wanting to win is important. But also, the biggest winning for us at this academy is developing these young kids into want to win, but also developing them as fulfilling their potential.
We've seen Asula, we've seen Hackford, we've seen Brooks get first team football, but there are other youngsters who are currently out on loan. Blaster, who's had first team experience as well, Louis Marsh, Harry Boys, Miguel Freckleton. How up to date are you with how they are doing at their respective clubs whilst being out on loan?
Yeah, we obviously, speaking of her again, we were aware that we've got a really highly talented group of young kids coming through last season, so we appointed a loans manager this season, just so that we knew that these kids, if not around the manager's first team, they will go out on loan in the league and all that. So it's important that we keep tabs on their development and make sure that they are being developed properly. So we appointed a loans manager, Kenny Black, and he's tasked really with going to watch them on a Saturday, going to the training ground, speaking to their Pacific clubs regards even as far as their diets, how they're training, and it's important that when he does go watch them playing, obviously the Blasters are Paul Fell now, and their manager will want them to play a Pacific way, but he then feeds back to Blasters certain traits and how our manager would want them to play in certain situations as well, because we are developing these young players hopefully to come back and play in our first team, and if not, to go on and have a good career.
How much of a say do you have in the player, their destination on loan? Is it the player and the agent? Do you say, okay, you're ready to go, or do you say, actually, we want you to go to this team because you're going to get certain football? How much of a say do you actually have in?
I think because the players that we've got here, and they're here such a long time, the likes of Blaster, Brooks and all that, it's we have sort of a good relationship. It's sort of a bit of a collective thing. So when Louis Marsh had a few options where to go, we sort of set him in, well, what team is he going to? What sort of style of play do they play, and how it will suit him? And ultimately, we sort of leave it down to the player, but we give him the best advice we can. But because of the relationship that we have with these kids, and good for us is that the trust that they have in us and their opinion, I think it's a good conversation, and we just come to a collective decision what best will suit him, and the agent at times, as you know, will be involved.
And now Sheffield United are a Premier League club again. Is this an opportunity to maximise that in terms of trying to get kids through the door? Because obviously in the north there are a lot of big clubs, you're competing for the services of young talented footballers. Being in the Premier League, does that help in attracting players?
100%, and even though obviously it's not all about winning, developing, when you see our 21s being successful, and we've got good players in there, and being in the Premier League definitely, regards to recruitment, Steve Holmes is head of recruitment, and let's be honest, young kids want to play for Premier League football clubs, don't they, at the end of the day? So it's there, and it is a big selling point. But I think for us is the best selling point that we have there is when the young player comes in the building and we have a conversation with him and we speak about the development and the syllabus. Like I said earlier, we're in here at 7:30 in the morning teaching them on their specific needs. So I think when they see that and how much care and support we put into them and how in line we are the football club, they will look, well, is there a pathway if I'm good enough? And the manager comes down and speaks to the kid, he's all in, and it's an open house, this place at the minute, and everybody's around each other, supporting each other. And as a academy manager, I'm probably the luckiest academy manager in England, really, to have that support from above, newly in this job, really.
And how are the teams doing at the moment?
The good, the 21s, obviously, they've won the first 3 games, and they drew last night against Burnley, scored a lot of goals. We've got a lot of lads. Obviously, Louis Marsh scored a few goals in the first few games. He's gone on, obviously, to Doncaster now. And the 18s, obviously, we've got a lot of young lads in. At this present minute, they've been up and down, but we're just trying to... These young lads are coming in from probably other clubs, Chelsea's or Brighton and all that. Our main focus at the minute is to making sure that they've got Sheffield United in it. It's the first protocol I hit every coach with. Before any sort of development goes on, you've got to make sure, obviously, look at the mantra. I want every team in our building to represent the city, which is obviously a working class city, and we're proud of that. I want the identity of this academy being Sheffield United, and it's something as academy manager I'm quite forceful in if you ask the staff.
Now the first team, it's been a difficult week, obviously after events of last weekend. But obviously West Ham, I'm sure, brings back memories for you.
Yeah,
What
bad
are those
memories.
what are those memories of playing West Ham?
I think the worst memory of West Ham was not even playing against them. It was the last game of the season when we lost to Wigan and they beat Man United that day, I think. And obviously it was all the Tevez drama and all that. But it's look, obviously, like yourself, so you've been around it long enough now. Football, you have your highs and your lows. It's important that you stay stable, and every game, every week's different, isn't it, really? And you go to West Ham, their crowd can be quite. They're good when things are going well, and not so good when things are going bad. So you point in the crowd, and with the team that we've got and the squad that we've got more than a chance of going in on Saturday. And the professionals there, the senior players, they're experienced. They've seen it all, and it's just hopefully we can go there and get a positive result.
Just to go back, how do you find it when you watch some of the young lads in the first team? Like in pre-season, I saw you at the Girona match, and you were there, and you were putting in some mileage with movement, watching, and you were sort of part of it. Are you really emotionally attached with these lads, and you just wanting them to do so well? How is that? How is that?
I actually hate it because it's even worse feeling than when I was playing. I always felt in control, but you're that desperate for them to do well, and you want them to do. I was
laughing because he looked so tense. I just thought that is another pressure.
I kicked the chair in front of me at one stage. I'm like, I'm that desperate. Like obviously for the young kids to go on and do well, and it's important that we're here to develop them. And the most good thing about this building, we've got no such thing as good staff, as good people. And we've got good people who want to help develop young kids, and it's important. The biggest thing for me, I think, last year the manager put Andre Brooks and Oliver Albast on against Burnley, I think, when we obviously a few goals up. I think that's the best feeling for me, is because you've got 2 kids in the building since they're 8 years of age. So as a collective thing, there'll be coaches on their 9s, 10s, 11s who'd have coached them at some stage. Pre-academy, they've been here since then. So I think everybody at the whole football club, them 2 coming on would have felt I played a part in him eventually playing for the football club, and the best thing, they're both supporters of. So I think that gives me great pride. So I can then go around all the staff and say, well done, and the part that you played, and Ollie or Louis Marsh, the kids that have been right through the system as well. And it's important with the other ones, but I think I get a real, of that day when them 2 come on, I got real satisfaction, not for myself, but for everybody at the football club, because everybody's played their part.
Timing's got to be right though, hasn't it? Because so often you hear fans saying, stick the kids in, give this lad a go, he's been doing well for the 18s or the 21s, chuck him in. But there has to be a fine line, doesn't there? There has to be a balance. You have to know when a particular individual is ready, because you hear managers all the time saying, well, if we stick him in now, it's not going to do his education any good, progress any good whatsoever. So how do you know when a player is ready for the first team?
It's a great question, isn't it? I think you're 100% right. I think at times it's too easy to say throw the kids in because they're doing well in 21's levels. No disrespect to the 21 level, as you know. The gap between on the 21 level and a Premier League game of football is probably the biggest gap in football, if that makes sense. So I think it's exposure to first team training and all that. It's exposure. Obviously the manager will be watching and thinking he knows the level what the Premier League's like, and he knows watching 21. So when I often say to our coaches in the academy, right through from on the 9s, don't think if he's brilliant at U team level, just think, well, can he cope at the next level? Can he? So if I'm watching a 21 game now thinking, okay, he could be playing against Kevin De Bruyne, not Ipswich on the 21 strike. So how would he cope against Kevin De Bruyne? That's the reality of the world that we're in at the minute. Whether the players like it or not, it's not dreamland. This is the reality of it all. So you sort of start judging them, but then he'll get exposure to the first team. He'll train with our first team players, which are obviously Premier League players. So, and how they're coping up there, how the manager gauges their development and how they're improving. And ultimately, if they can affect a game of football in the Premier League, I'm sure that's when the manager thinks, you know what, at certain stages, and like you said there, with the timing of it, they can go in and impact that game, which obviously will not just help the kid and his development and obviously catapult him to where he wants to be, but ultimately we've got to help the first team win games of football.
And to finish and to bring it back to this weekend, the first team matters, playing West Ham after the result last weekend. You know, you'll have had setbacks in your career before. Is it one of those instances where you just bin it and move on and say, look, that happened, not pleasurable, sideline it, park it, and we move on? Is that kind of the approach that has to be employed here now?
Yeah, I think so. I think as you get older, when I was a bit younger, I don't know about you, when I lost the game, I couldn't get it out of my head for bloody week.
This will have been the longest week for the players. It will have been terrible for them, wanting to get out and pop things right and show what their real character is.
Yeah, I think so. But when you look at this team group, certain group players in the group have been together quite a long time, and they've been through the ups and downs of playing for Sheffield United. So I think it's about regrouping, going again, and look at the first few games of the season. I think we've been probably the best of the 3 teams that have got promoted. Really, we've just been in it. Unfortunate in games, really unfortunate in certain games. Lost by the odd goal. Competed against Man City, treble winners in Europe. So I think it's not really worrying for me. It's a matter of being professional, going again, and trusting in the squad that we've got, which we have. And obviously we've got a manager that's done great things for the football club. So.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much. It's been really interesting. We could have done a whole lot more, and I dare say we can catch up again further down the line and chat further about some of the youngsters here who are doing so well, and some out on loan as well in the Football League. Thanks for your time, Derek. Cheers. Top man. Thank you.
What do you see in West Ham? How do they compare to the teams you've faced so far?
Yeah, how do they compare? Well, listen, they've had a really strong start, some real good results. They're very comfortable even when they've not got the ball, you know. So that means they're a real good threat on the counter attack and transition. So yeah, set plays been really strong, a good physicality about the team, the organisation without the ball. So yeah, we know when we're playing against a team who, yeah, no matter who they play against, pose threats. So yeah, we have to make sure that we're just as good without the ball and make it difficult for them. Whilst also having one eye on those threats, because if David picks a team that I would expect him to, we know those threats are going to be there, even if we're attacking, even if we're on the ascendancy with the ball. Like I said, one quick break, there can be a threat set plays. They've added to that with Ward-Prowse's delivery as well this season. So yeah, we know we're in for a tough game again, because typically West Ham give everyone that play a tough game.
So that's Paul Heckingbottom with his thoughts ahead of the weekend at West Ham. Closing thought from you, Carl. What are you hoping to see from the Blades?
What we've seen before Newcastle. Endeavour, great application. You know, even for the first 15 minutes against Newcastle, I thought we were a better team. We played really well. And I want them to be brave. You know, it's a massive ask after what's just gone on, but the manager always wants his players to be brave, and to succeed the way we play, they need to. So I just want to see the big characters get the ball and show what they're about. I want them to give the good account of themselves. That's it, because they've earned the right to be in the Premier League. Don't go into your shells now. You're good players. Remember how good you are.
Carl, good to see you. Thank you. Thanks for your time. And fingers crossed Sheffield United can bounce back this weekend. We shall see you again next week when we build up to the match against Fulham. Have a great weekend. See you soon.